You are not reviving hope, but you are reviving hopelessness.
If you can put the results which then force them to come out and to rig it very openly, then you should go.
From Georgian Dream perspective, this drill could serve the recognition purposes.
Exactly. For the moment, it looks like that this exercise will be the last one under the Georgian Dreams regime.
I didn't know that Kaspi was a heaven for,
It was a capital of
the gay capital of Georgia. Hello and welcome to Talk Georgia Question Time with me, Giorgi Rukhadze.
And with me, Nodar Kharshiladze.
This is a special edition of Talk Georgia where Nodar and I discuss key issues of the Georgian and regional politics.
It is brought to you by Droeba Media Group, trusted source of news and information.
And GSAC, a think tank providing comprehensive political analysis of Georgia and wider Black Sea region, also academic and practical training for postgraduate students and mid-career professionals.
So now let's go to our questions.
Today we'll be basically discussing two issues. It will be first participate or not to participate in the local elections, which is very close already. And the second is that Agile Spirit 2025, a large-scale military drill, is back to Georgia, and what message it could be for the West and for Russia. As you said, let's get down to the questions. And first question came from Zaza, and who is interested in this. Local elections are now very close. The opposition is still divided on participation. What will be the best thing to do, in your opinion? Come on, Nodar.
Wow.
Start it. Okay, well, this is number one question, I would say, yes.
Yeah, this is a question which now occupies lots of minds. I think that I will start with the conclusion here that what is opposition doing now possibly is the worst case choice of action. I think that there were a number of other available activities they could do, so there were options, but they prompt for the worst one. Now, one thing would be to fully boycott it by everybody, and that would be fine by itself, and then Georgian Dream would have to put some puppet parties and some phony election process to show that there is still election ongoing, and nobody would fight. And second would be, of course, option which I am more leaning to, that they would have a strong bloc. Everybody would go there. They would have a very strong preparations and strong bloc. And yes, it is obvious the Georgian Dream would falsify this election, of course. But that would put them in a more complicated situation. So that would deprive them of, for any internal legitimacy, if any left, and put them in a more miserable position. And considering latest results, especially in Tbilisi, in several last elections, including the national and local. On national elections, opposition won Tbilisi. And the local elections, Kharshiladze won it by what, 1% or something? I mean, it was very close.
You mean first round? Or
second round, mayor's election. Yeah, it was very, very close.
I think that first round was very close. Second round, he won decisively, I think.
So they would have a very good chance of creating more problems and forcing Georgian Dream to make even more mistakes. Now, neither of those course of actions were chosen. Instead, they once more demonstrated division, which is by itself is a huge problem and a very big irritation theme in the opposition-minded population of Georgia. That these 4+ parties can't agree on anything, and gave, of course, more reasons to Georgian Dream to feel more comfortable with these elections. And so now we have a situation where 2 parties out of these 4, I don't want to limit Georgian opposition to 4 parties because that won't be true, but let's say the 4 parties who passed the threshold in accordance with 2024 election results, and at the same time we don't recognize those results because they are falsified. So it's very hard to talk about 4 parties. But okay, let's 4 big parties, let's say. 2 goes to election and 2 doesn't. Out of those 2 who goes to election, one of these parties was a coalition, and the members of this coalition, some members, they refused to go to elections. Like 2 of them already did that. Now, second party is not the coalition party itself, but there are many prominent members in its party outside Kakharya are also refusing. They don't agree, and I have some inside information that some of them will leave the party in protest if Kakharya finally registers. I think it's 4 August.
I mean,
August.
It's very close. It's within
So
within
I know
reach.
for sure one of persons we both know, she decided already to leave the party if 4 August registration will take place. So we have this very strange situation where instead of using every election as an opportunity to weaken Georgian dream, either by trying to win something, which is quite hard to be realistic because of the falsification of election, but then increase the condemnation and the level of the frustration and anger in the people. Opposition directs this part of this anger toward themselves, demonstrating discontent, demonstrating lack of coordination, unfortunately, and further promoting idea that they are not the force who can successfully fight and finally defeat the Georgian dream. I think from my point of view, that is the situation where we are standing now, and that is very unfortunate situation. Now, what might these 2 parties do to these elections? Might they do just same, create problems to a lesser extent? And then let's not forget that 2 other parties and some others said that they will try to prevent them to going there. So it looks like that they're gonna spend more time for infighting than fighting the Georgian dream. So again, unfortunate, but very typical situation for current Georgian political process. So what do you think, George?
I absolutely agree with you that we are facing possibly the worst case scenario out of what the opposition could have done. And I also agree that either boycotting the elections, if they were together, would have been a serious choice, or jointly participating in the elections, that also could have been an option. But half of the opposition is participating and the another half is boycotting. That is the worst case scenario that we are facing, sadly. And I don't anticipate that anything would change, because unless something really big happens. But what could be bigger than, for example, 8 opposition leaders being in jail? I don't really understand. Of course, there can be bigger things happening, but the reason for unification, I think, was there. Not just because that Ivanishvili is kind of consolidating dictatorship and, you have to unite against dictatorship if you really want to defeat it. That's rule of thumb. But even if you leave it aside, and Ivanishvili managed to create personal reasons for each and single party, basically, to get united, not to participate in the elections, and think of something else to do. Okay, but it didn't work. It worked the other way around. It basically widened the division between the parties. Now, if you ask me, I think that before deciding whether to participate or not to participate in the local elections, I think that you have to ask just one key question to yourself when you are a party leader, or
what's your goal here?
What's your goal there? What is your action serving? So, and you mentioned that I think that the key aim here and the key point here should be that you should be weakening Georgian dream by doing this or that. And if you take part in this election, what I don't understand, how you are serving this purpose. How are you weakening the Georgian dream? I think it is the other way around. You give Georgian dream an opportunity to win this election, prove once again, whether they rig it or not, well, that's another issue. You give them opportunity to prove to their supporters, to the country, and to the Georgia's international friends, and no matter what, we continue with clinging to power, and we will conduct local elections or whatever elections as normal and as we want, and the results will be as we write. This is why normally I would oppose any kind of boycott in politics, because it is always counterproductive, unless you have basically zero opportunity or zero chance in succeeding to achieve your goals. Another point is that for some of the proponents of participation say that what we need to do, well, even though we know that we are going to lose it, even though we know that Georgian Dream is going to falsify the elections, we still want to participate because we want to be part of the process, we want to pick a fight, use elections as a leverage, and we want to, most importantly, we want to revive political process and revive hope. Well, I would understand this again if there was unity among the opposition parties, because it could bring hope back, it could bring the process, pre-election campaign back, that could give an opportunity of the opposition leaders to be smarter, tougher, more active than the Georgian Dream representatives. But when you know that Georgian Dream has all the leverage, to achieve what they want to achieve, I think what you're doing there is you are not reviving hope, but you are reviving hopelessness.
Well, I think that here when we disagree, and this is nice because we mostly agree on everything, that I think that unified, so you said that if they unified, you prefer them to boycott than to go to elections.
Well, yeah, still, but...
I would prefer them to go to elections because I think that, first of all, it's very hard to rig beyond some numbers. If you win plus 10%, then you need to have a not usual rigging as Georgian Dream does. So you need to have a stun levels rigging, okay? The rigging which happens in stuns, okay? So that kind of rigging, I think, will not give more hope to Georgian Dream or show that they are strong. It will give more anger to people and would finally wash out any leftovers of the legitimacy they would have abroad. Plus, from my dialogue with international actors here, they are overwhelmingly supporting joint participation in election and not abstaining of the election. So and international support here is a key. So on the one hand, you would gain more cookie points from your foreign partners acting as a responsible actor. And secondly, you will show people, if there are any left on the fringes of the doubt, how fraudulent Georgian Dream actually is, because in Tbilisi, you defeat them decisively and either force them to recognize the result, which is unlikely, I fully agree, but then you would force them to do like unseen so far levels of the rigging, which would just ridiculate the process itself and anger people even more. So you will rise the boiling temperature higher. So I think that could be result, especially in Tbilisi, where it's way harder to rig the election than in Kaspi or somewhere in the Tushetia. So that is my argument why they should unify and go to elections. While I subscribe everything what you said, if you can't be strong and you're gonna win it by 2-3%, then you should not go. If Georgian Dream can justify this election as they did last ones with, clandestine levels of the rigging, then you can't, and you should not. But if you can put the results which then force them to come out and to rig it very openly, then you should go. And you should force them to do that, making them even closer to a ridiculous levels of the rigging. Let me give you the example. Istanbul elections of the last one. Erdogan tried very hard to win Istanbul in a level that he cancelled the results of the first election when opposition won. And what he gained, people got angry and the opposition won even a bigger margin. So these kind of things might be the case, but now I will reserve myself here because I don't want to seem unrealistically naive. In Turkey, opposition already had Istanbul under control. Okay, the city council was, and many big cities they already. So they have experience how to defeat government in local elections. It was not first time. Here there is no such experience. Okay, only Tsalenjikha, I think, one was an exception. Plus, there they really managed to unify and put. I mean, they had a unified presidential candidate who lost a bit of small margins, but this served them very well with the local elections when they took all big cities, all of them. I mean, no exceptions. So we don't have such situation, and Turkish opposition is way more stronger and bigger infrastructure. So I think that while it sounds good, key here would be implementation. Would they manage to do that? Now I have questions and doubts about it. And if they fail on such, then of course boycotting is easier.
It is. And when I was saying that I would rather support joint boycott than joint participation, what I meant here is not just boycott, but this boycott should go further than boycott. I mean, just boycotting and saying that we are not participating, that's one thing. But if you boycott and with the joint force you try to disrupt the whole process, that's the absolutely different story. And I believe that if there was a unification around boycott, there is just one step to bring it to a new level, which I would say is a disruption of the elections or disruption of a normal. That's one thing. Second thing, I disagree with you that there is an overwhelming support for participation from our international partners. And a very good example of that is the last resolution from the European Parliament, where it very clearly says that Georgian Dream would use local election results or local elections as a pretext for legitimization of their power. And I think that with that very clear statement from the European Parliament, I would not be so sure that European or our international partners would wholeheartedly support the participation in these mock elections, because now I think everybody understands that this is not election, but it's a mock elections. Secondly, again, it all boils down to what is the aim of the opposition. I mean, if you want to change the government in local elections, you can't do that at a national level. So, when you say that I don't recognize the Georgian Dream government, and not a lot of a lot of international players don't recognize them as legitimate government, and once again, here is the European Parliament resolution, which clearly states that it does not recognize Georgian Dream as a legitimate power. So I think your number one goal when you are in the opposition is to strengthen this delegitimization. And okay, when you put a question like that, what the participation or non-participation, what serves better your purpose here? And I think the boycott and non-participation is a stronger tool, in my opinion.
Look, I added skepticism on my scenario. You didn't on yours. I said that they would try to participate. If they tried, there would be big problems with the success. There will be huge problems with disruption capabilities as well, okay? Because even if they were unified, I have a strong doubts that they would be able to conduct. They should, and let's use it freely, should, but have we seen anything what they should done? No. Now, the second argument, and let's look at that. There is no question of Tbilisi mayor's legitimacy, okay?
No.
So Khaladze is a legitimate mayor of Tbilisi, and this is
He
the
is.
local election about Tbilisi. So if you can make that also a questionable by just forcing him to rig it, that could be interesting perspective to look at that. Or if you are that strong that you can disrupt it, then go and win it by 10-15%. So that could be, again, arguments on both sides.
Yeah, agree.
Visions from different
Yeah,
sides. So
agree.
let's go to the second one.
Yeah, let's go to the second one because.
Okay, so it's from Katie. If Ivanishvili is Russian puppet, how come that NATO and US military drills are back in Georgia?
Well, interesting question.
Yeah, so as a former military and former,
Yeah, I think you started as a former military.
Yeah, and you gave the EU perspective then. First of all, this is a NATO exercise, okay? This is an exercise which is under umbrella of NATO.
Well, not officially, but NATO countries there are 13 countries and 10 of them is NATO countries.
Yeah, but it is under umbrella of NATO.
Okay.
It is not NATO organized, but it is under umbrella of NATO. NATO has this strange thing. So countries participating are either NATO member countries or NATO partner countries, such as Georgia, Ukraine. I don't think that Ukraine can participate this time, but usually they did. Okay.
And I think Armenia is participating this time as an observer.
Yeah. So, but they are not full participation. So now it might sound, and it sounds very strange, but while Georgia officially, let's say, put on hold their participation with the EU, such thing was not done with NATO. There was no statement that we're going to stop our integration with NATO. Maybe because there is no integration in NATO happening. But officially, at least on the paper, Georgia is still candidate for NATO.
Yeah, aspirant country or whatever.
Aspirant country. And based on the Bucharest summit declaration, which was not revised, it still continues to be a matter of time. It says Georgia and Ukraine will become members of NATO. It's very clear. So, when you deal with the international organizations, you deal mostly with international bureaucracy. At political level there, I mean, look at you how long time it took it to start undermining this process. Georgian Dream worked very hard and took several years. Because the same goes to NATO. For NATO bureaucracy, while they understand very well what's happening in Georgia, but officially and legally, you are still an aspirant country of NATO. So those countries can bilaterally refuse to participate. I mean, nobody can force them to participate, like Lithuania. But NATO will still give a green light for it to be conducted under its umbrella. Now, another question is why Americans are still doing it, okay? Is another question.
Because, I mean, I think last year that wasn't the Americans canceled drills here in Georgia?
It was bilateral, which they did cancel. So it's hard to say. I think they might look at it as a kind of to keep at least something happening in Georgia, not in bilateral, but under multilateral. And this is not EU, this is NATO. So maybe that is the thing. But I don't like it. I mean, I understand the philosophy of question, and I agree with this philosophy. If you condemn Georgian Dream as a Russia puppet regime, and most parliaments, including European Parliament and Megubari Act, when you look there, they do condemn Georgian Dream as a Russia's puppet, or at least Russia's ally. So if you do that, you should not be doing that as well. However, I mean, more rational explanation is that NATO is a functioning political military bureaucracy, first of all. I mean, 90% of people working there are either administrative or military bureaucrats. They still put a check in the box. Yeah, they do that because Georgia is still aspirant country. We have not withdrawn our aspirantship from the NATO, so will go as scheduled. Again, there are some signs from NATO. For example, this year they decided to downside and maybe not to conduct annual national program assessment, which is a sign. So, again, it's hard to say, but for the moment, it looks like that this exercise will be the last one under the Georgian Dreams regime. And again, it's kind of funny and strange to say, and Georgian Dream will try to propaganda hell out of it now. I'm showing that you see what's happening, and I don't like it. for that reasons.
Okay, my take on this is that I agree with you that this is, it's not like something new. It was planned long ago. Normally it happens like that. And apparently there was no resistance from the Georgian de facto government. And because there was no resistance, then why not? Because it was planned. It was there every year or every 2 years, this agile spirit, it comes to Georgia, and why not? But on the other hand, from the Georgian Dream perspective, I think that, they are trying to persuade everyone that they are not Russian puppets. And this is an excellent opportunity. Even if they are, and I believe that they are Russian puppets because they don't have any other way. Even in that situation, they still are longing for approval from the US, from EU, and we see it on every step. For example, it was yesterday that the Georgia's ambassador to United States was accepted and approved in a protocol, normal thing when there were 15 other ambassadors there, and you should have seen the joy that was coming from Georgian Dream speaking heads and propagandists.
I did see that.
So that means that, still they say terrible things about the United States, European Union. They are, calling them names. They want us to drag into war. They want us to all to become gays, and single-sex marriage should be normal run of things in Georgia, all that. But when it is about approval and recognition from their side of Georgian Dream as a government, they would do anything. So I think from Georgian Dream perspective, this drill could serve the recognition purposes.
Exactly.
For them, because, they say that if they don't recognize us as legitimate government, if they see us as Russian puppets, then why on earth they are coming to Georgia? These 13 countries, 10 out of these 13 countries are NATO countries, US with heavy personnel saying that 800 US soldiers and
States,
officers and what they are here.
United Kingdom.
3 weeks or something, length, etc., etc. It's strategic exercise, blah, blah, blah. So it means recognition to them, and they want to spin it as recognition.
And they will spin it.
And also the second and most important thing is that the recent, I would say, development that you can observe in the Georgian Dream propaganda is that the line that appeared now, they are saying that we are not Russian. And a few days ago there was Rukhadze that came out and said that come and name single fact or reason why Ivanishvili is the Russian puppet or Russian controlled. Okay, the reviving this line of the propaganda that we are not Russian, we are just Georgian, supporting Georgia's national interest, etc., fully basically coincides with this line, also with this drill, saying that again, all these countries are against Russia, in favor of Ukraine. They are now in Georgia conducting a large-scale military drill, which shows that neither we are Russian. Okay, something like that. It could be some deeper things. Maybe there was an agreement with Moscow saying that, that happens every year, etc., etc. It wouldn't have. This is the possibly last time that will happen here. So be patient with that. It will serve us, our purpose. So it could have been behind the wings. I don't know. I can't claim it. But what I see is. It's more of a propaganda for Georgian Dream rather than truly embracing, the Western, integration, which is on hold in both cases, in EU and NATO. You mentioned that legally we are on the paper, we are still NATO aspirant country, but in fact it is told. It's been already a long time that NATO has never been on Georgian Dream agenda. Even before, when European Union was still active in 2020, even before Russia started war in Ukraine, the NATO issue was not on Georgian Dream agenda.
Fully agreed. Again, yes, I don't like it as well because this is a propaganda event for Georgian Dream, and I don't like West playing the ball with them. Now you mentioned, and I would like to finish it with the perspective. Okay, you mentioned about this same-sex marriages, Georgian Dream using anything, and on that topic, you know, recently I was researching some topics about William Shakespeare, and it says that with modern analysis, to write all this variety of the themes and topics he managed, one should be possessing IQ over 200, which was higher than Einstein and anybody else. I think that the only guy who has higher than that is a mayor of Georgian city of Kaspi. I mean, if you don't know, our listeners, and that's a funny episode, when this all first started, the same marriages, this guy heard it, of course, from his press office and decided to distinguish himself.
Yeah, I remember that.
and he came out, he organized official press conference and said that it's totally unacceptable and it's time to end gay marriages in Kaspi, which spawned a huge ridicule towards him and everything, because neither in Kaspi nor in Georgia there is no legal procedure to certify or register same-sex marriages. I mean, they're not part of the Georgian legislation, so you can't marry if you're same-sex. But this guy started to restrict it, and there was these jokes that now Kaspi says goodbye to gay marriages, and
I didn't know that Kaspi was a heaven for, you know.
It was a capital of
the gay capital of Georgia.
Yeah, so that's the level of the people Georgian Dream operates, and the level of the spinning they're trying to. And instead of shutting it down, they try to spin it for a while. Despite of being totally false, I mean, they said that he did not mean that it should be restricted. He meant that it should never happen. So now, from that perspective, look to the NATO exercises. One thing we have to admit it: Georgian Dream is good in propaganda. Okay, they are.
Yeah, they basically graduated from this propaganda university pretty well. I mean, at the beginning, I think they were daft.
They were very miserable, but only thing in which they managed to excel was a propaganda. I think that Supreme Leader, God bless his name, he did not save any money on propaganda, and he was right. He invested a lot, and now it returns, because in regions mostly government-led televisions work, and the people's only single source, and single sourcing is very dangerous always, even when the source is good. That's why now, if we restricted gay marriages in Kaspi, what we're gonna do with NATO now here? Okay, so this will be a huge propaganda thing. Just a perspective to look, and the guy is genius. He's still mayor of the Kaspi, by the way.
Thank you, Nodar. Thanks for watching us, listening to us. Please like us, subscribe to us. Talk Georgia will go on summer break in August, and we'll be back in September on independent Talk Georgia YouTube channel.
Yeah, provided we are outside and not inside.